in Sefer Baal Shem Tov Amud HaTfilah, Ois Kof Nun Beis. Kisa b'Zohar HaKodesh. Posach v'Omer. Shim elei lo yitfei tzedek mevakshei Hashem. Listen to me, those who are chasing justice, and those who desire the holy name. Just speaking about people who desire life, who have made an absolute, unnegotiable, unconditional commitment to life. And those people are searching for justice. What type of justice? The word tzedek, when we translate it as justice, we're not doing justice to the word, because tzedek means so much more. And tzedek relates to the last midah, the midah of malchus, which is all of the manifested reality. The manifested reality is called tzedek, justice. We must believe if we want to be able to thrive, if we want to find life, if we want to have more, be closer to the holy name, then we have to learn how to chase justice. And the justice that we are talking about is the nature of the way life was designed to be. What does life want? Why is life the way that it is? Why does life get upset when this happens to it? And why does it become happy when this happens to it? We have to be roit tzedek. Roit tzedek doesn't mean run and manifest your idea of it. Roit tzedek means run and try to understand more. Run and become learned about what does this all mean? What type of justice was this world designed on? And this is the entire Torah. The Torah is about instructions on how to chase this justice. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdah. Constantly chasing this justice. What is this justice? This justice is the nature that life deserves. It's like if you're going to adopt a pet, justice for that pet is you knowing what that pet requires and being able to provide in accordance with its needs. Then there's justice. If you don't understand the pet you've adopted, it's not right, it's not just. You're violating the nature of how life was designed to be. And so, a million times more, the soul that you have adopted, you must know its nature. You cannot be a just man if you're not chasing to know the nature of what it is that you have received. And how can you be accurate with it? How can you make sure that it's receiving justice, that it's getting what it's supposed to get, so that it can be healthy, so that it can thrive, so that it can really become its full potential? And so this is called roit tzedek, mevakshei Hashem. Those who chase tzedek, why do they do that? Why do they care? The nature like this, the nature like that. What difference does it make to them? It's because they want access to life. They want to make sure that the name that designed life has its desire fulfilled when life manifests into reality. The name is waiting to be manifested when humanity will be ready. And so those who chase justice, they are the ones who desire the name. So the Zohar says, roit tzedek, what does it mean, those who chase justice? Inun the ozlen baser meim nusa. It's those who try to figure out their beliefs. It's those who understand that in order to manifest justly, in order to give the soul justice, we have to know the accurate beliefs of what is happening while we are here. If we don't download into the body accurate beliefs, the soul cannot have justice. And so, those who go after the accurate beliefs, these are called the chasers of justice. Inen mevaksh Hashem, those are the ones who desire the name. Iba isolim in the name Nusa, if you want to know accurate belief. Ila achdel ha'etzedek, and to unite this justice, to unite the Shekhinah, to unite all the forces of creation into one force, into one unit. Lo tistaklim ba bilchado k'shar b'nei alma degarme misa le'yarmeu aldu. Don't look at the manifested reality itself like the rest of the world. The rest of the world, they want to see creation, they want to understand Creator, and so they just observe what's observable. And then based on that, they say, oh, this is all there is. Someone who does that killed his soul. He just lost his soul, just like that. Whoops! What happened? He now thinks that what he can see and understand is all there is. So where's his soul? Can he see it? No. Understand it? No. Where is it? It's outside of his perception. He no longer believes in it. It's gone. He's just been cut off from the very root of life, the very source of life. The source of life is not in the manifested reality. The manifested reality emanates from the source of life. And so if all I see and believe is the manifested, then where am I? I am nowhere. Such a place doesn't exist. I'm just looking at a projection. It's like someone thinking that I'm just the words and that there's no one behind the words. Where is he? He's nowhere. He can't even understand the words either if he doesn't understand that someone is saying the words. These words have a meaning and a context based on that someone. This world has a meaning and a context based on that someone from where the world emanates. If someone thinks what I can see and understand, that's what there is nothing else, he's lost, he's nowhere. And so this is called causing yourself spiritual death. This is a spiritual suicide. This happens when people are in a spiritual conflict and they want to escape the conflict. So they commit suicide. First, there's a conflict. What is the soul? What does it want? What are the real limitations? Ooh, very difficult to understand, very difficult to answer. And so when it gets too hard to carry, they just commit suicide. Okay, there is nothing else. I don't believe it. Prove it to me, show me. And so don't do that. Don't look at tzedek alone. Elo habitu el tzir chotzavtem. Look at the drawer. Tzur can mean different things. But it means the protector, the source, the force from where this came forth. The ruach that speaks in me. What ruach was it carved out of? It was carved out of the original ruach Elohim merachefes al pnei hamayim that created everything that's here. And so look at where you were carved out of. You were carved out of the collective. There was a collective first. And that collective had a spirit. And then from that collective spirit, each spirit was carved out. Each one is another manifestation of that same spirit. And so reattach yourself, reattach everything that exists to the spirit from where it emanated, to the one who desired and therefore it became. So now he says, this is told this Yaakov Yosef, he says, I heard an explanation of this from my teacher, that it's a very big principle that we need to know in order to know how to worship, in order to know how to direct ourselves towards the heavens, towards the source of truth. But he says, he heard the explanation, but he doesn't remember it. I'm going to tell you what I think, I can't tell you for sure that this is what he said or not, but this is what he wants to tell us over here. So Hashem should save him from mistake. What is it that he wants to say? And so he says, what does it mean, those who chase justice? He says chasing justice means that they are concerned with the well-being of the Shekhinah. They're not concerned so much about their own well-being. They are concerned about their own well-being, but not because, oh, this is mine, therefore it's my concern, and what's everyone else's is less my concern. It's because they're concerned about the Shekhinah. They're concerned about the bigger picture that's happening here. And they're part of the bigger picture. Granted, they need to have kindness and compassion because otherwise the Shekhinah is also suffering. But the reason why they are concerned is not because of their private concern. They're concerned because there's a much bigger concern going on, and they are part of that concern. So it says, that the nature of prayer means that we are uniting with the collective and we are yearning for the collective to be fulfilled. And so prayer really represents her. She is the nature of prayer. Why is she the nature of prayer? Because she was created with a lack, like the moon that has a lack. The moon has the lack because it constantly is being filled. And then again, it's preparing to be filled, and then it's being filled. And so that lack represents prayer. Prayer represents a desire to be filled. And so really when we're praying for the collective, we're praying, meaning we're waking up that nature within creation. That is part of the design, that is part of what the collective was created to do. The manifested part is craving for the unmanifested. It wants more and more of it so that it can feel home, so that it can feel united with its source. He needs to pray to fill her lack. If the Shekhinah would receive more life from the source, then of course we're all going to feel different. And so automatically, if she gets fulfilled, then we not only will not have our problems, we're going to have an experience we can't yet imagine. And so if we get that done, if we get the Shekhinah to have a better situation, then every individual is in a better condition. And so this is, even if a person is concerned about his own concern, this is still the better option. The man that's praying is also one of the limbs of the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is everywhere and in everything. There's nothing that's empty of it. The Shekhinah is something that we speak about, and people know the word, people know about her, but it can be very vague what it is we're talking about. What is this force, and how do we attempt to help her? And so the presence relates to something that is very much experienced by us. Even if it's subtle, we can feel when we have more and when we have less. And sometimes we can see people that have more, and sometimes we ourselves have more. And sometimes when a collective does something together, we feel it more. And sometimes when someone does something in front of a collective, he has it more. And this all relates to a force that lives in all of us. But sometimes it's more alive and involved and it desires to be, and sometimes it's less, and sometimes it even doesn't want to be, which is the opposite of Eis Ratzon. Eis Ratzon, there's more Shekhinah. And when there's anger, it's like we're throwing the Shekhinah away. We're embarrassing her. We're saying we have something that's more important than you. So the spirit of anger is the competition of the Shekhinah. That's why it's called the Samach Mem. And so when he says something is more important than the Shekhinah, then he gets to throw her out from her home. And he takes over. And so this is why when someone is angry, they lose their spiritual access. Even Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have access to his prophecy when he was overly frustrated about how Klal Yisrael wasn't accepting the higher will. And so when we speak about giving strength to the Shekhinah, we're talking about something very real. We're talking about something we're always experiencing. We're not talking about something theoretical. It might be subtle, it might not be clear. Then we have also the competition of the Shekhinah. The opposite of the Shekhinah called Lilith. Lilith is a demon that tries to pretend to be the Shekhinah. And this is what we find in all the media, the entire entertainment industry. It's all about pretending to be alive. There's a Disney world of life, but there's no real life. There's no real joy. There's no real friendship. There's no real love. There's nothing to be had over there. It just looks good. It's glamorous. But it doesn't have anything. It's an empty container. It's a nice jar. You want to open it. You open it, there's just a bad smell in there. This is the competition of the Shekhinah. When we follow that, the Shekhinah loses. They're very jealous of each other, these two, because it's a zero-sum game. They're really exclusive to each other. You're either giving life here or you're giving life there. What is real to you? What is important to you? If you fall for the glamour, if you fall for the external hype, then the Shekhinah loses. Eventually, this is not going to work. As the body ages, Lilith becomes less and less seductive. The story becomes more and more bitter, and the Shekhinah doesn't have what she was supposed to have, and so there's less. And that's when the big smile becomes a frown. That's when the demons take off their makeup and jewelry. And so we want to be Roitfei Tzedek. We want to be authentic with life. We want to give power to the Shekhinah. We want to live the design so that there can be justice for the soul. We don't want to get into conflict. And so therefore it says there's no place that's empty from Shekhinah. There's nothing that exists that doesn't have that force. The question is, how present is that force? Even in a rock, it's present. But in the grass, it's more present. In a tree, it's more present. In a fish, it's more present. In a mammal, it's more present. And in a human, it can either be extremely, extremely present, or the exact opposite of it will be there. The angry one, the one who hates it. He hates it all. Burn it to the ground. His wife is called Lilith. The Samach Mem and Lilith are a couple. They create space for each other. The glamour and the fake good, the fake life, makes place for the anger and the bitterness to come later. First, the woman comes in. She is the more attractive one. And then the husband follows. And then the Shekhinah is not present, so less HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The name is not so present. Life cannot be revealed. There's a lack of life. Life has been stolen by a lie, by a presentation. The spirit was fooled and gave away the most precious. So he says, always we should be praying for her. If she's good, everything's good. You pray for your stuff. What do you know? Tomorrow you might have different problems. Pray for her, and then everything will be safe. Not always can he remember the bigger picture. Sometimes he's so busy, so bogged down, his heart is so bitter on his own story that he can't see the bigger story. Person has a big pain, it's philosophy and automatically he just can see his pain. He can't see beyond his pain. If he would understand, he would know that even this pain, it's only because she is lacking that you can't get your full dose. If you would be in a shechina that's in love with her husband and they're united, then there would be no lack. And so even there, obviously, the root is still the same, but his mind, his heart is not ready to open. Sometimes he's praying and he remembers that he shouldn't be praying about himself and pray about the Shekhinah, but remembering is not enough. So sometimes he can't even remember, he's in so much pain. Sometimes he can remember, but he's still in enough pain that even remembering doesn't help. His pain is still bigger in his experience than the pain of the Shekhinah. If he's going to fool himself or try to fool the Creator and say, yeah, my real intention is only for her. I'm praying for the bigger problem. But Hashem is there's a reality to how the heart works. There's no fooling. When we fool, we only fool ourselves. And then there's consequences, because then there's two of us. Part of us knows the truth and the other part is lying. So then there's a whole game between these two parts now, how they're going to get along. And so we can't fool anything. So if in reality his pain is so big that he can't be focused on the greater pain, that he can't realize now the importance of the Shekhinah, he should first daven according to how his heart is. Right now he's in his pain. If that's the only truth he can access, then he should pray for that. He has to be truthful to his heart. His mouth and his heart have to be united. And this is a huge yesod in praying that people today don't understand, is that if you're saying words and your mind is not with them, it's worse than not saying words. Because think who you're talking to. He knows what's in your heart, obviously. And so saying without meaning is worse than not saying, because it has to be piveli v'shoven. But the pasuk says, one who lies cannot stand before me. Which means that if we're trying to fool him, not only are we fooling ourselves, but we're really causing big damage to the relationship. וכן מפרש מפי הרב המגיד מנחם מנדל ודברי פי חכם חיים. והנה, הבחין הפסיכי נקרא מלכוס בלבד. מה שאין כן כשמייחד השכינה והקדוש ברוך הוא בתפילוסו ידי שנושא לב, שזו הוא השכינה מתפללת אליו יתברך. So when a person unites the Shekhinah with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in his prayer, what does it mean? It means that he realizes that his illusion of who he is not real. He doesn't know who he is. He's been in this world. He's tried to figure it out, but he's not there. He doesn't know. So who's speaking of it? Who is saying the words that are being said? It's not him. He doesn't know who he is. It's the Shekhinah. There's a problem arose within creation. And now, through my mouth, that problem is being expressed. Which means the Shekhinah is speaking to her husband. He happens to be the messenger through which this communication is coming through. But it's a greater power that created him that's speaking to a much greater power that created her. So it says when he notices that, he becomes part of the Shekhinah. Only then is he attached to life, for real. Because when he thinks he's something else, where is he? in illusion land. He doesn't exist. There's no such person in the world. There never was and there never will be. But now that he knows that he's not that, now, oh, welcome home. Now someone's here. Hello. Now the Shekhinah is alive. As long as there was an illusion, it wasn't the Shekhinah. There was some other perception that was pretending to be. A very confused one at that. And was telling the Shekhinah what to do and was giving criticism of what she should do different and like this and like that. And now suddenly it disappeared and the Shekhinah came home. And so now he's Davik el Chaim. Now he's alive for the first time. Chaim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is called Chaim, and the Shekhinah is the soul that's receiving it. So if we create an alternative identity within our soul, then the Shekhinah doesn't have her home. She doesn't have this soul. She cannot communicate with her husband through that soul properly. But when we wake up to the realization that our identity is she and only she, we are a form that she chose to dress up in, and everything that happens to us is really happening to her because we are part of her. Then when we speak, we are connecting our soul to her husband, which is Hashem, and therefore we are Dovik, we're attached to life itself. When the Malchus is alone, when this world is not attached to the source, is not attached to life, is not attached to the creator, when this world is trying to make itself work just on its own, that's called Ragleo Yardes Movis. Her feet lead towards death. Meaning at the end of the process, there's going to be death. Everything manifested leads to death. Because manifested means temporary. Temporary means it starts at some point, existence, life, looking good, and then it dies at some point. The feet lead to death. There's no other choice. Everything that was born is going to die. And so what lives? What wasn't born. And that's where we live. We're just perceiving ourselves within what was born. But that's not where we live. Where we live, we weren't born. From there, we are projecting this reality, and we are experiencing the body. We're experiencing the physical dimensions through the body. And so the Malchus alone is called Raglei Yodas Mavsek Shemis Yachid Malchus Al Yidei Soy Tzadik HaNikra Chai. When the life comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the Malchus through the Yesod, which is called Chai, which is called life, because through there he is mashpia, he's giving life to the world. So when he is experiencing that he is attached to life, then he wakes up his soul, then he can have life. Listen to me, those who are chasing justice, those who desire the name. Don't look at the Malchus alone. Says, don't be like those people who just pray for themselves and they don't remember the greater good. They don't remember that the Malchus, the entire creation, is yearning for liberation. Pray for the greater problem. Don't pray just for your own problem. If you pray for your own problem, then it means that you're in the illusion. You're the one that's robbing the Shekhinah from the life that she was given. And so therefore, don't look at you yourself. Who is the kind? The one who is kind to his creator. The tzaddikim, those who want righteousness within this world, they are the messengers of the Shekhinah. Meaning the Shekhinah is everyone, but who is working for her? Who cares about her? Who is remembering her? Who is doing something so her condition will improve? Who is not busy just with themselves and with their own agenda and with their own problem and with their own story, but they have a concern for the greater good of this huge being that they're a part of. Who remembers why they were incarnated? Those are the messengers of the Shekhinah. Those are her representatives that speak to the source. They're the ones who pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the justice, for creation, for the manifested reality, in order to unite the Shekhinah with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the bride and the groom. And so look at the source that you are carved out from, so that you can have the intention for that entire being, so that the healing can come for everything, not just for an individual part, not just for one aspect, but for the entire being, for the entire Shekhinah, for everything that is wrong with any creature in any way, any type of crisis that we created, in all the different species that exist, whether it's the inanimate, or it's the growing, the plants, the different species that need to exist, that maybe because of how we interacted with the planet, we eradicated, and this has tremendous effects. And the same thing with the mammals and all the different types of creatures that we're not even familiar with, that maybe we don't even know they exist, but they used to exist, and people came into their territory and now they don't exist. And so all this needs healing. When life comes forth from the source, when the source awakens with desire towards the Shekhinah, all these things get healed, everything gets renewed. The entire planet can get a new upgrade. The same could happen to a human being. A human being comes into a new relationship, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an intimate relationship. Sometimes it can be just a platonic relationship, and suddenly their body might renew. They might have a new desire for life. They might suddenly find that this world is not as lonely or as sad as they used to think. And then they get an upgrade. They suddenly feel different. And so the whole planet can go through that. Nations can go through that. Families can go through that. And so when the Shekhinah receives what she's supposed to receive, the world is going to look different. The fruits are going to look different. The animals are going to behave different. Even the stubborn animal called the human is going to behave different. He's not going to be a stubborn animal anymore. And so look back at the source, see the real problem. Don't assume that, oh, it's personal. You know, you did something wrong and now this is what happened to you. No, even if you did nothing wrong, this world is going through a tremendous disaster. And now is the time for us to wake up a desire within the source to renew his world. And renewing the world for him is what he desires to do. He wants to release more life to this planet. But we have to have the vessels that are not going to start fighting with each other over what to do with it, or competing with each other about who is better with it, or all the old patterns that destroy this world. We need the right attributes in order to receive the blessing. If a human being is suffering, the Shekhinah is suffering, because we are all sparks, we're all parts. And so don't distinguish between the manifested portions and the root that we worship. They and her are related. The world is broken. We don't always have control. We have to know how to protect the spark that dwells within us. And yet we should never lose sight of the real nature of things. As ridiculous and twisted as the demon that resides within that person, the person is still a part of the Shekhinah. That part of the Shekhinah is in real trouble. It's possessed. It's hurting itself. And yet it's still part of the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is suffering that. All the humans form one human body. All the souls come from a different organ, a different limb, a different portion of the body. Each part has bundles and bundles of souls, deeper souls that are the function of the organ that relate to the wiser souls within that bundle, and the lower souls, the more external souls, who are the more practical souls, who are there to serve the external function of that organ. And so everything is like in the body. All the angels that dwell within the body in order to give the body its functions, those same forces are dressed up in the form of a man that represents the Shekhinah, and from there come all the different souls that get embodied on this planet. And so every soul has a source from where it's coming, and that's its nature, that's its way, that's what it has unique over all the other souls. And so there, the Shekhinah, when let's say a soul that's in the head of the Shekhinah has pain, so as far as the Shekhinah is concerned, she says, my head hurts, my hand hurts, my feet hurts. Right now, everything hurts. The Shekhinah is in a terrible condition. She's forgotten her husband for so long, she's forgotten the life force for so long, that she can no longer bring herself to be happy. She's lost the ability to be in a good mood. And she's waiting for us to awaken her. This is when we say on Shabbos that we wake up, it's already, what are we talking about? We're talking about the Shekhinah that's in a bad mood for thousands of years already because she's lost access to her husband. And so, Klani Merashi, Klani Mizrah, it hurts from everywhere. Then he'll pray for her pain, which is the right thing. If one has a heart, that's the right pain to pray for, more than any other pain. Not the person laying in the hospital, that too, but for her, because he is her. And the other one also, and the other one also, and also in the hospital in the other city, and in the other city, and in the other country. And also the ones who are not in the hospital. And also the children who are being trained wrong in the schools, and also the children who are being trained wrong in the homes, and also the children who are suffering because they can't understand the message that's being said. And also the adults are suffering because already as children they couldn't understand the message that's being said. All this suffering is real suffering. The Shekhinah feels all that suffering all the time. How could she possibly be in a good mood? This is why by Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, when there was a time when there were still healthy people in the world and they kept the balance in the world. Therefore, we had a Beis HaMikdash. Therefore, the Shekhinah had access to some real life. And so by Simchas Beis HaShe'eva, the happiness would be so big with the music that people would, it says, Misham She'avin Ruach HaKodesh. They would come there and suddenly their spirit would just be purified. They would suddenly realize things about the nature of creation that they never knew before, they never saw before, they never heard. They didn't read it anywhere. They knew it because they were so close to life, they felt alive. Suddenly they had a Shras HaShekhinah. The Beis HaMikdash, you could see is Galus HaShekhinah all the time. What does it mean is Galus HaShekhinah? It means that the force that lives wants to live so much that he is really here, unlike now. And when that happens, it's very evident, it's very obvious. You can't miss it. Everything looks different and sounds different and feels different. And this is what we're waiting for. This is what needs to return. So then he'll know to pray for the greater problem. Your problem is no problem. She has a problem. You don't have problems. When her problems are solved, there won't be any problems. So where's your problem? So it says, pray for her. Automatically, all the suffering of the individuals will be removed. Kufn und Dalit. Shemati memori. Itzadika yen shlicha de maternisa. This is the Tzafnes Panech, also they told us. The tzaddikim are the messengers of the Shekhinah. They are the messengers of life itself, of all manifested life. He says, when a tzaddik has a pain, he knows that it's not his pain, it's a much bigger pain. The world is in pain. And therefore, he experiences it so he can address it, so he can ask for something to change. The world needs a change. And the rule is, we are in charge of the world. We have to say what should happen. And so he gets a signal to know what to ask for, and then the world can be relieved of its pain. So he knows to pray, to fill her lack. Then he unites the force that lives with the force that manifests life. This is the greatness of prayer. So there's an ancient question. Why pray? Hashem already knows what you want. So if it's good for you, he should give it to you because he knows your heart. He knows that you want it. And if it's not good for you, he shouldn't give it to you even if you ask for it. So why ask for things? And so he says, with what we just said, this question disappears. Because with what we just said is that he is only having a problem because we need him to pray. It's not that Hashem doesn't know. Hashem knows everything, but Hashem will not manifest unless we order. So we have to pick up the phone. We have to run this world. If Hashem would run this world, it would have been perfect already. But no, he's not going to run it to perfection. He made it. It's ready to be perfect. We're going to make it perfect. And so if something needs to happen and we're not making it happen, he's going to send signals in order for us to know what we need to ask for. You're not praying for you, you're praying for him and for her. If he has a lack, it's only because there's a lack up there. So up there, we have to be careful when we say up there that people shouldn't imagine. When we say up there, we don't want to imagine. Up there simply means not in the story that you think every day, but in the story that's actually happening. That's up there. They're both happening in the same place. They're both happening here, in the world of bodies and in the world of souls and in the world of spirit, where we are. But why do we call it up there? Because our consciousness is stuck in a fake story. That's the Olam HaSheker, that's down here. And the real life is happening up there, meaning the way it's really happening. There, that place. But where is it happening physically? Right here, the same place. They're both up here and down here. Up there and down here are both in the same place. They're just different in their understanding of what's taking place. That's where they're different. There's our perception and there's the real way. The real way is up there. And so you should pray that in the real place, things should get filled, not in his illusion of what he thinks the problem is, but in the place where the real problem is, there should be a solution. Because the tzaddikim are the messengers of the Shekhinah. Automatically, everyone will get their needs. So by doing this, by having the right intention, he is creating more likelihood that is going to be answered. And when he's answered, he's going to have much more relief than if he would have received what he originally wanted to ask for. Tzadikayo in a shlicho de matranisa. So again from the Tzafnis Panech, tzaddikim are the messengers of the Shekhinah. Shem chasri lechem echasri malbushim yedu shecheson zehu lemalo v'yispalelu lemalas acheson sham v'lo yispalelu l'teil satzman klal. So this is the same idea that when a person is lacking, let's say he doesn't have food or he doesn't have clothing, he should understand what is being said about the Shekhinah. And so he doesn't have food, it means that the Shekhinah doesn't have the right excitement, the right emotions are not being raised by humanity. And so the Shekhinah feels hungry, she doesn't have her food. We're not praying with the right intentions. We're not bringing her close to her husband. He doesn't have clothing. Maybe it means the Shekhinah is not feeling safe. She doesn't feel properly protected. People are hurting each other and things are not happening in the way they're supposed to. And so then he prays for her. He sees the message in his individual life, and he prays for the collective according to the inspiration. והנה שמעתי מן המנוח החסיד המוהר"ן מרן רב נחמן כי בספלל איש המוינה עליך מבגד שהוא מספלל בגשמי מזה נמשך שפע לחם מבגד בגשמי ממש גם לאנשי הצורה שאין מספלל למלך מבגד הגשמי כלל רק ברוך נבדל פי חוכם חיים. And so he says the spiritual man should only pray for the greater good, and then the greater good is going to improve accordingly. But here in this world is a tough world. And so even when the greater good improves, because the tzaddik, he doesn't go to work, he doesn't do the usual ishtadlis in order to make money. And so who's going to give him food? How's he going to get his own sustenance? And so he said, the spiritual man prays for the greater good. But then there are the non-spiritual people. They pray for their needs. And so when they pray for their needs, through that, the spiritual man also gets his needs. And so this way, everybody's getting tied into the greater good. The basic man that's only concerned with his basic needs, he prays for his basic needs. And then from those basic needs he prays for, also the tzaddik receives basic needs, because this wakes up the desire in the Creator to give forth to each individual according to his need. And then the spiritual man, he takes the energy that he gained from the food that was prayed for by the simple man, and he prays for the greater good. And then everyone is part of this chain that makes the Shekhinah become whole. May we be zoicha that we should learn how to approach the Shekhinah, we should learn how to please the Shekhinah. We should learn how to be more, to be a kli, to be a vessel, so that more life can live in us. And this starts preparing the body for redemption. The more we can contain, there is a level of life, there's a basic standard that we have to arrive to before we can have redemption. Because redemption cannot be in a way where the body cannot produce enough life in order to sustain the redeemed man. And so first the body has to be developed in order to be able to contain. And so more life and more life until there can be Ruach HaKodesh, until there can be Ashras HaShechina. And then this is what's going to happen around the globe. As we're going through difficulties, people are going to search more and more for truth. And then some people are going to arrive to very high levels of perceiving truth, and they will help others. And then the Shekhinah will be able to come into our hearts. There will be more life. And then when people will see what life looks like, they will all want it. There is no doubt that real life is much more attractive than glamour. And so Sarah Meinu was the most tznuah, and yet people, by looking at her, would receive instant Ruach HaKodesh, like by Simchas Beis HaSheva. They will have their own little Simchas Beis HaSheva just from looking at Sarah. And so this is the power of being alive. This is something that we cannot imagine. It can only be experienced. There was just one generation after the Chorban, and the people who had seen Yerushalayim B'Tifarto when it was alive could never explain in a million years to the generation after what that was and how that felt and what it meant. All they could do was cry that it's no longer there. And so we merit helping the Shekhinah redeem herself, redeem Yerushalayim, redeem life on this planet, redeem humanity, so that we can understand His will, we can know the good that He has in store for us, we can know how to get in touch with that good, how to live that good, how to be that good. And through that, the entire planet is going to be liberated. All the evil that happened until now is going to seem like a small price to pay for what's going to come. May it happen now.